Hello and welcome to DollersArchives. Today, I'm bringing you one of the most extraordinary and terrifying stories you've probably never heard. This is the story of a boy who built a nuclear reactor from household materials, outsmarted every government agency in America, and nearly created a nuclear disaster in a quiet suburban neighborhood. When he accomplished this feat, he was merely 17 years old. This isn't science fiction. This isn't a movie plot. This actually happened in 1994 in Clinton Township, Michigan. This is the true story of David Hahn, known to history as the Nuclear Boy Scout. Buckle up, because this journey takes us from innocent childhood curiosity to federal investigations, and it raises questions we're still grappling with today. Born in 1976, David Charles Hahn came into a world that would soon fracture around him. His parents, struggling with their own conflicts, divorced when David was just 6 years old. This wasn't just a family tragedy, it created a structural vulnerability that David would later exploit. After the divorce, David split his time between two households. His father remarried, giving David a stepmother. His mother also remarried, giving David a stepfather. In this divided family structure, communication gaps emerged. Neither parent had a complete picture of David's activities. What one parent didn't know, the other assumed they knew. This would prove critical later. But divorce wasn't the defining moment of David's childhood. That came when his grandfather, recognizing the boy's sharp curiosity, decided to give him a gift. That gift was a book. The Golden Book of Chemistry Experiments. Published in 1960, this wasn't like modern chemistry sets with their safety warnings and harmless reactions. This book contained real experiments with real chemicals, dangerous experiments, explosive experiments. And here's something crucial to understand. In the 1960s, safety regulations didn't exist like they do today. Authors could publish instructions for creating explosive compounds, toxic gases, and highly reactive chemicals, all marketed as educational material for children. After reading this book, David didn't just become interested in chemistry, he became obsessed. This was the beginning of a singular focus that would define and ultimately destroy his life. David immediately began setting up a laboratory in his father's house. But this wasn't a toy chemistry set. David was acquiring real equipment, professional beakers, genuine Bunsen burners, laboratory-grade test tubes, and actual dangerous chemicals. How did a child get these materials? David developed a talent for deception early. He would visit hardware stores and chemical supply companies with prepared stories. He was buying supplies for a school project. His father was a science teacher and had sent him to pick things up. He was so polite, so articulate, so seemingly innocent that adults simply believed him. His youthful appearance worked in his favor. No one imagined this smart, well-spoken boy was building an unsupervised laboratory. David's obsession grew exponentially. He spent every dollar he could get, allowance, birthday money, earnings from odd jobs, buying chemistry books and materials. His room transformed into a technical library filled with college-level textbooks. But David wasn't satisfied with just reading. He had to see these reactions himself. And this is where things became dangerous. At age 12, just 12 years old, David successfully synthesized nitroglycerin. For those unfamiliar, nitroglycerin is an extremely unstable explosive used in dynamite. It's so sensitive that a slight impact or temperature change can cause detonation. Professional chemists handle it with extreme caution in specialized facilities. David made it in his bedroom. The warning signs were there early, but no one was really paying attention. Life in David's household became increasingly chaotic. Explosions became frequent, not little pops, serious detonations that shook the house. Fires broke out regularly. Carpets were scorched black and had to be replaced. Rooms filled with toxic smoke. Walls became stained with chemical residue. Strange, acrid smells permeated the house. Some were merely unpleasant, others were potentially toxic. David once accidentally produced chlorine gas, the same chemical weapon used in World War I. The greenish fog filled his room and seeped through the house. His father came home to find the entire house filled with choking gas. They had to evacuate. You'd think this would be a wake-up call, but David's parents, dealing with their own lives and new relationships, didn't fully grasp the severity. They saw a messy, careless boy, not a serious safety hazard. Finally, fed up with the constant disasters, David's parents made a decision. They told him to move his laboratory elsewhere, anywhere but inside the house. They probably thought this would discourage him, that without convenient access, he'd lose interest and find a normal hobby. They were catastrophically wrong. This decision actually gave David exactly what he wanted: freedom from supervision. He now had permission to set up a laboratory away from watchful eyes, in a space where explosions wouldn't immediately draw attention. David moved his operations to the basement, where he had more space and privacy. He set up a larger, more sophisticated laboratory. He organized his chemicals systematically. He acquired more advanced equipment. His experiments became more ambitious and more dangerous. Then came the incident that should have ended everything. David had collected red phosphorus, likely scraped from matchbox striking pads. Red phosphorus is relatively stable, but David wanted to do something more sophisticated. He was attempting to convert it to white phosphorus, a much more reactive and dangerous form that ignites spontaneously in air. The process required grinding the red phosphorus. This should have been done with extreme caution and small quantities with proper safety equipment. But David, overconfident from his previous successes, was grinding it vigorously. Friction and heat caused it to ignite explosively. The detonation was massive for a home laboratory. The shockwave literally shook his house and multiple neighbors' houses. People ran outside thinking there had been an earthquake or a gas line explosion. Windows shattered from the pressure wave. The basement was devastated. And David was seriously injured. He suffered burns on his hands and face, cuts from flying glass and debris, temporary hearing loss from the blast. He was rushed to the emergency room. At the hospital, doctors asked what happened. David, even injured and in pain, had the presence of mind to lie. He said it was an accident with fireworks. The doctors were skeptical his injuries didn't quite match that story, but they had no proof otherwise. After treatment, David was released, and here's what's remarkable. Even this near-death experience didn't stop him. His father finally put his foot down. No more chemicals, no more experiments. The basement was cleaned out, remaining chemicals disposed of, and David was told this hobby was over. But David was nothing if not resourceful. Remember, David's parents were divorced. If he couldn't experiment at his father's house, there was always his mother's house. David's mother and stepfather had a storage shed behind their house, a small structure cluttered with old belongings and forgotten items. To David, it was perfect. He began slowly, carefully moving equipment to this shed. A box here, a bag there, nothing suspicious. Over weeks and months, he transformed this cluttered shed into a full-scale laboratory, even more advanced than his previous setup. The beauty of this arrangement was that his mother and stepfather both worked full-time. David had learned to be secretive, to clean up evidence, to work when no one was around. They had no idea what was happening just meters from their house. This pattern of secrecy and deception was now firmly established in David's character. He had learned that adults could be fooled, that supervision was inconsistent, and that if he was clever enough, he could pursue his interests without interference. Meanwhile, his father, still concerned about David's development, made a decision that would change everything. He enrolled David in the Boy Scouts of America. The Boy Scouts have a merit badge system, where scouts earn badges by demonstrating knowledge in various subjects. Among these is the Atomic Energy Merit Badge. The requirements included learning about atomic theory, understanding nuclear reactors, and studying the peaceful uses of atomic energy. It was designed to introduce scouts to nuclear science safely and educationally. For David, this badge became an obsession. David threw himself into earning it. He studied nuclear physics far beyond what was required. He read college and graduate-level textbooks on nuclear engineering. He learned about different reactor types, fuel cycles, enrichment processes, and yes, weapons design. The scout leaders, impressed by his knowledge and enthusiasm, awarded him the badge. They thought they were nurturing a future nuclear engineer. They had no idea what they'd actually done. This badge came with a handbook. And this handbook contains something that would prove crucial: contact information for government agencies, national laboratories, and nuclear facilities across America. The handbook encouraged scouts to reach out to these institutions to learn more. It was meant to be educational. David looked at this list and saw opportunity. He saw a way to solve his biggest problem: how to actually build a nuclear reactor. This badge filled David with dangerous confidence. An official organization had recognized his nuclear knowledge. He had a certificate. He felt validated. Now, to prove himself to the world, David made his most audacious decision yet. He would build a real, functioning nuclear reactor. Not a model, not a simulation. A real reactor capable of nuclear fission. This was the third critical incident that set David on a path toward potential catastrophe. With theoretical knowledge in hand, David needed materials. And here's where his story becomes even more incredible. David actually attempted to buy uranium. In the mid-1990s, the internet was far less regulated than today. David found websites offering mineral specimens, some based in former Soviet countries where post-USSR chaos had created security gaps. He found a seller in Czechoslovakia offering uranium ore samples marketed to collectors. David ordered one and paid with saved money. And incredibly, it was shipped to him. A package containing uranium ore arrived at a teenager's house in Michigan. No government interdiction. No questions asked, no flags raised. David was initially elated, but when he tested it with his Geiger counter, the readings were disappointing. This was very low-grade ore with minimal actual uranium content. David researched uranium enrichment, the process of concentrating uranium and increasing fissionable isotopes. What he learned was discouraging. Enrichment requires sophisticated equipment, centrifuges, gaseous diffusion apparatus, laser separation systems, all far beyond his capabilities. He tried anyway. He attempted chemical separation techniques from nuclear engineering textbooks. He worked for weeks trying to extract and concentrate the uranium. Finally, he admitted defeat. His backyard lab couldn't enrich uranium to any useful degree. Disappointed but not defeated, David shifted focus to a different element, one that would prove much more accessible: thorium. David discovered that small amounts of radioactive materials exist in everyday consumer products. This was a revelation that exposed a massive security loophole. His shopping list was methodical. Americium-241, found in smoke detectors. Each detector contained a minuscule amount, but David bought hundreds. He even called the manufacturer, pretending to be a teacher planning a safety demonstration. He asked exactly where the americium was located inside their detectors. They sent him diagrams and detailed instructions. David systematically dismantled smoke detectors, extracting the tiny americium foils with tweezers, storing them in a lead-lined container. Over time, he accumulated what was, by his standards, a significant amount. Thorium, found in camping lantern mantles. His Boy Scout handbook explicitly mentioned this. Mantles contained approximately 1 gram of thorium oxide each to make them burn brighter. David bought lantern mantles in bulk. He visited camping stores and bought their entire stock. He ordered cases online. He went to garage sales buying old camping equipment just to harvest the mantles. Store clerks probably assumed he was stocking up for scout camping trips. No one questioned why a teenager needed hundreds of lantern mantles. In his laboratory, David used chemical processes to dissolve the mantles, separate the thorium compounds, and purify them. He used acids, heating, and multiple purification steps. The work was painstaking and dangerous. Toxic chemicals, hazardous fumes, and increasingly concentrated radioactive materials. According to later analysis, David purified thorium to approximately 9,000 times its natural concentration, an impressive and terrifying achievement for a backyard laboratory. David faced two massive obstacles. First, nowhere in any public library could he find step-by-step instructions for building a nuclear reactor. The theory was available, but not construction details. Second, nuclear reactors require radioactive fuel, uranium, plutonium, or other fissionable materials. These are among the most strictly controlled substances on Earth. How could a teenager possibly obtain them? David's solution was brilliant and audacious. He would ask the experts directly. Using the contact information from his merit badge handbook, David wrote letters to government agencies, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Department of Energy, national laboratories, and university physics departments. But he didn't write as David Hahn, teenage Boy Scout. He created a fake identity, presenting himself as a high school science teacher named David. He used sophisticated language, demonstrated genuine knowledge, and expressed enthusiasm for educating students. He asked detailed technical questions about reactor design, fuel configurations, neutron moderation, and criticality. He framed everything educationally, explaining he wanted to better teach his students about these concepts. And the response was astonishing. Government scientists, never verifying his identity, sent detailed technical information. They answered his specific questions. They provided guidance on nuclear reactor design principles. They explained fuel rod configurations, neutron reflection, breeding ratios, and criticality calculations. Information that should have been restricted was freely given to someone they assumed was a legitimate educator. No one called the school he claimed to work at. No one asked for credentials. They simply believed him. This was a catastrophic security failure. But for David, it was a goldmine of information. Government experts had essentially taught him how to build a nuclear reactor. David built his first neutron gun using americium and beryllium. He set up his thorium fuel and activated it. Nothing happened. No chain reaction. No sustained fission. David was devastated. Months of work, all his money, serious risks, and it wasn't working. He consulted his scientist contacts, carefully describing his theoretical problem. Their response identified the issue. His neutron source wasn't powerful enough. To initiate a chain reaction in thorium, he needed something stronger. They suggested, theoretically, that a radium-based neutron source would be significantly more powerful. But where could David find radium? It's highly radioactive and strictly controlled. David's research revealed that in the early 1900s, before radiation dangers were understood, radium was used in consumer products, most notably in glow-in-the-dark watch and clock dials. By the 1990s, most radium items had been removed from circulation, but some antiques still existed, forgotten in attics and antique shops. David began haunting antique shops and estate sales, carrying his Geiger counter concealed in a bag. He would browse old clocks and watches, positioning his hidden Geiger counter close to their faces, listening for radiation. Most items showed nothing. Then, at one antique shop, David found it. An old 1920s clock, tarnished, faded, seemingly worthless. But when David's Geiger counter approached it, the device went absolutely crazy, continuous clicking, needle pegged to maximum. This clock was intensely radioactive. David tried to stay calm. He casually asked a price, expecting it to be expensive. $10, the shop owner said without looking up. David paid immediately and left. Back at his laboratory, he carefully opened the clock. Inside wasn't just radium-painted numbers, there was an entire bottle of radium paint, forgotten for decades. This bottle contained several hundred times the radium in a typical watch dial. enough to be genuinely dangerous, enough to cause serious radiation poisoning, and enough for David's purposes. Using the radium, David built a much more powerful neutron gun. Testing confirmed it produced neutron flux many times greater than his americium version. David now possessed everything needed to initiate a nuclear reaction: radioactive thorium fuel, a powerful neutron source, technical guidance from government scientists, and privacy in his backyard shed. In late 1994, David assembled his reactor. The exact configuration is unclear, but the basic design involved thorium fuel surrounded by neutron reflectors made from graphite and aluminum foil, with his radium-beryllium neutron gun positioned to bombard the thorium. He activated it. At first, nothing seemed to happen, but David's Geiger counter showed neutron flux was increasing. Slowly, gradually, the reaction was building. Over the following weeks, David optimized his configuration. He adjusted material arrangements, added more thorium, improved neutron reflection. He was guided by Geiger counter readings and theoretical knowledge. Then things started to accelerate rapidly. Radiation levels climbed exponentially. Readings doubled, then doubled again, then again. David began detecting radiation not just inside the shed, but outside. First a few feet away, then 10 feet, then 20, then 50 feet. David checked his reactor and realized something terrifying. It was approaching criticality, the state where a nuclear chain reaction becomes self-sustaining. Commercial reactors are carefully maintained at barely critical through control rods that absorb excess neutrons. David's reactor had no such controls. It was heading towards supercriticality, and he had no way to stop it. For the first time in his experimental career, David became genuinely afraid. Radiation levels kept climbing. David's Geiger counter was detecting dangerous levels 50 feet from the shed. His neighbors, families with children, elderly people, pregnant women, were being exposed to radiation without knowing it. David understood radiation sickness from his studies. Sustained exposure at these levels could cause nausea, hair loss, immune damage, and cancer. He was potentially harming innocent people. He also realized that if the reactor achieved full supercriticality, it could produce a significant energy release. Maybe not a nuclear explosion, but potentially a steam explosion or dispersal of radioactive material across the neighborhood. The fear that had been absent throughout months of reckless experimentation now gripped him fully. This could become a disaster devastating his entire community. David made a decision: immediate shutdown. Working quickly but carefully, he dismantled the reactor. He removed the neutron source first, stopping external neutron bombardment. Then he separated the thorium, breaking up the concentrated mass into smaller, isolated quantities. He worked through the night, periodically checking radiation levels, watching with relief as readings slowly declined. The exponential growth stopped. The reactor was subcritical again. But now he faced a different problem: what to do with highly radioactive materials. He couldn't throw them away, bury them, or flush them, and he certainly couldn't admit to authorities what he'd done. He was violating multiple federal laws. David decided to pack everything into his car, and he wasn't sure what came next. Maybe find the remote disposal location? He hadn't thought it through. In the early morning of August 31st, 1995, David loaded boxes of radioactive materials into his trunk, working quickly and nervously. A neighbor noticed his suspicious behavior and, thinking they were witnessing a burglary, called the police. 2 patrol officers arrived while David was loading his car. When they opened his trunk and saw boxes with chemical labels and strange equipment, they called the bomb squad. The bomb squad's radiation detectors started clicking as soon as they approached. Inside the trunk, radiation levels were significantly elevated. The bomb squad escalated immediately. FBI, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and EPA were contacted. Within hours, federal agents were on scene with specialized equipment. In the shed, their equipment went wild. Extraordinary radiation levels, contaminated surfaces, elevated radon, a serious radiological hazard site. When they questioned David and investigated his notebooks, they pieced together the full story. The smoke detectors, the lantern mantles, the radium paint, the deception of government scientists. The assessment was sobering. Approximately 40,000 people had potentially been exposed to elevated radiation levels because of David's reactor. David Hahn, at 17 years old, had nearly caused a nuclear disaster in suburban Michigan. David was arrested, but ultimately received probation due to his age and lack of malicious intent. The property cleanup cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Over 30 cubic meters of radioactive waste was transported to Nevada. Government agencies implemented new security protocols. David's case became a training example of information security failures. David joined the Navy in 1996, serving on the nuclear-powered USS Enterprise. For a while, it seemed he'd found his path. But mental health issues emerged and he received a medical discharge in 2003. His life spiraled. He struggled with employment, moved frequently, and his psychological condition deteriorated. In 2007, he was arrested again for collecting smoke detectors, unable to let go of his obsession. On September 27, 2016, David Hahn was found dead. He was 39 years old. Alcohol poisoning, possibly intentional. David Hahn was a tragic figure, a brilliant mind without proper guidance. At 17, with no formal training and no institutional resources, he built a functional nuclear breeder reactor, an intellectual achievement most professional engineers couldn't match. His story teaches us that raw intelligence without wisdom is dangerous, that burning desire can overcome any obstacle, but must be channeled responsibly, that we must recognize and nurture exceptional talent, that mental health matters profoundly. David could have been a great scientist. Instead, he became a cautionary tale. Learn from his brilliance. Learn from his mistakes. True achievement isn't just about what you can do, it's about what you should do. Thank you for watching DollersArchives. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and stay wise.